kicked that to the practical model department. And this is Fawn Davis, a phenomenal model. He's worked on all the Star Wars prequels, and he's trained under people like, who was it, John Goodson, one of the early, Star Wars models. I mean, these guys are the best, and they have a shop that has hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment in it. So we kick it into Rhino, and we had to do a few things. I wanted pieces to be able to articulate in the model that would be needed. Its thruster nozzles could rotate, and the cockpit could rotate if I wanted to. So we had to do some Boolean operations and minus the pins. And we were attempting, this information would then be sent to a 3D printer. And so we went to this machine right here, which is actually in his home in Marin. Pretty cool. And what it did is it laid a dam wax down, layer by layer, and filled each of those dams, those very small dams, with a layer of acrylic, building this thing up in slice by slice. And so you end up with this really fuzzy clay-looking thing here at the end. It's on this printer tray, this stainless steel printer tray, or aluminum, sorry. And then you bake off the wax, so this part's baking. And then this is what pops out. So I've got this cockpit section. I have for a buck, a half buck for the elliptoid canopy section. I have some winglets, and I have my main fuselage section. And so right there, I mean, this is a pretty cool way to model. And exactly what I, for my sketches, and I had 100% control over the final product here. So it's immensely powerful to be able to toss your geometry off to other departments, rather than have other departments who are so wanting to be creative, reinterpreting what you're doing. And there's always going to be a little of that. The director's always going to pop in and make changes all the way along the process. But this is a lot of fun. From that buck that was created, we vacuum formed, what's it, PETG or something. It's basically what they make Coke bottles out of. For the clear part of the canopy, and then repeated that process with the styrene, very thin styrene, and we had these two halves, and there I sort of masked this off and cut out, my windows, my daylight openings, and kludged this thing together. Everything was primed and pinned together, and we'll go to the next one. And then sort of output a product like that. Again, it's lacking the wings. It's an older model, but this was a lot of fun. And honestly, for higher end stuff, I mean, obviously you see the sculptors of creatures all the time, but in higher end productions with budget of sort of 150 million, 200 million, this is what they're doing. If this is something that's going to be seen a lot, the director likes to come in and be able to interact with something like this. And here's something where he can pull parts off, take a jackknife out, and actually I will tell you about a scenario on the ranch that both John and I experienced. We were tasked with building a city, and that's something that the ranch is sort of known for. The Star Wars projects of that, we're world builders. And so we built the city at a foam core. And it wasn't with hot glue guns. Actually, there was a photo of me earlier. That's what I was doing. And it was so great, too. With all the technology and this and that, George's only ability was to come in and stand at yes or no, or be able to scribble on top of something, like shave a little weight off the head here, or whatever. But it was really neat to see him interact with the model. It's a full model of the landscape, and he could get down and he could start seeing shots. He could figure out, well, this is where this building needs to be positioned in order to see this battle and to be able to perform some other story function. And so it was really neat to see him pull out his jackknife and cut sections of the foam core up and place them elsewhere. I mean, that was absolutely valuable. Models are great, and they're also, you have to look at them as another way to design. So get foam core, toothpicks, whatever, balsa wood, and start seeing if your sketches seem old and your arm is moving the same way it always moves. Well, try a model, try something else. Look at a photo in a different way and mirror it. Some of the stuff that Scott Robertson's doing. This can be a way to shake up your design process and do something really new and unique. and the model will be absolutely invaluable. Or, like I've done, here's another step where I could have made changes again. I could take kit bash parts of an F-14 Tomcat and add more detail to this thing. And that's what the model shop would do. You know, they would take a design and they want to continue with it. So each phase here allows you the opportunity to design anew, but usually the detail goes down and down and down, or the minutia as the resolution increases. But you're really going to stay on the big things, the profile, the silhouette in the beginning, and the overall proportions until you get into finer details here. Obviously, this would be a dramatic waste of time if we weren't happy with the proportions from the beginning. If we didn't have any evidence of that in the beginning, this would be a complete waste of time. So you really got to prioritize. And that's actually something that George taught us a lot about, or just sort of, where are the eyes on this creature? Or this thing's got to read in 2 seconds and be understood by a child in Southeast Asia. The film is really becoming a universal medium and language, and we've got to play by some of the rules and to communicate to the broadest audience, to be as universal as possible, and get people excited about this stuff. I guess, is there another one? No. Do you guys want to do some quick questions and then take a break?
Do you get any royalties exclusive to the toy production from the movie part?
I've never been open to that, but yeah.
I mean, you should design. I don't know. You want to pursue the studio gets it. You get any part of it?
I mean, that would be something that would be laid out in the contract, or it'd be the gracious of the director, or I doubt it. Especially in film, the pie is so old and how the money is divided up. There's not a lot of wiggle room to get that sort of, I think it's really an IP you have to develop yourself. But if you come in under contract, like we were on the ranch, we'd often joke, wow, we're making a lot of toys here, a lot of money. I mean, the franchising of Star Wars is a $24 billion franchise. I mean, that's just toys, So our drawings can generate enormous money, but no, we're not there. I mean, there might be other people who have special arrangements, and I'm sure if you're a heavy hitter, you might be able to make changes in the contract to get royalties, but yeah.
Then you won't deny it.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I think we need to appreciate the position we're in and how much fun it is. I think we also need to appreciate how hard it would actually be to come up with a successful IP and market a product. I mean, what George is bringing to the table is enormous. What he's built before I come there, I'm giving very, very little compared to the work that he's already put in place, and the good luck. The first Star Wars movie happened to be a different world. So, for right now, it's just fun to explore these designs and get the satisfaction of hopefully seeing them on the screen. I haven't seen anything of mine on the screen. Well, I have Marcy's Mums on the screen, but I haven't seen it yet. I guess a lot of other people didn't either. But yeah, it's crazy. Years and years and years will go by and the stuff's still NDA. It's crazy and it's sad to see these enormous projects with years of life, and they just go away.
It's out of curiosity, because we're all obviously interested in concept art, and that's why we're here. From your personal experience, about how many of us do you think will actually make it, like less than half of them? I'm asking you a serious question.
Wow. Well, I mean, there was a, I'm trying to answer your question. I mean, I'm not going to answer that. I don't know. I don't think anyone knows that. I mean, there's so many things.
I'm talking about like the demand for concept art, because normally studios don't have so many.
Right. I would say it's tough right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what's great, if you know you're passionate about this, it's time to buckle down and really show that you love this. Yeah.
Because I know a lot of teachers try to discourage us, but oh, that's a really hard job to get into. Why don't you do something else? Would you say if you have a passion, just go for it regardless?
Of course, yeah. I don't think you should be discouraged, but I think you should be realistic. It's not going to be easy.
No, of course.
Yeah.
It related to acting in some ways, you know, like actors, they're like large field of people who are trying to get in and be a star, be an actor. It's not necessarily that narrow, but in some ways, you know, you have to stand out, you have that personality, you really work on that personality. Just impressing something about it that you bring to the table that, you know.
And it's not even just your art. I mean, your ability to communicate in other ways is going to be integral. Whether people want to be around you. This stuff's really important. It's really important. And you know, I've seen talented people, big egos, just don't want to be around them. They don't last on the production. So it's really got to keep yourself in check at the same time. And really connect with what excites you. You know, for me, it was light. Obviously, a bunch of other things, but stay with that. Ditch the ego, the insecurities and fears that, of course, you're an artist, you're sitting out there and what you're bearing out there, you're not like putting milk lids on milk bottles, you know, where it doesn't matter who's really doing that. Like, yeah, you can show up to work on time, but you're bearing a pretty intimate part of yourself. Again, it is still commercial art, and you really have to, you know, you have a boss. It's only so creative you can be, but that said, you're still bearing something intimate, and when it goes up on the wall, you'll feel it, and you'll get jealous, and have a whole course of sometimes negative emotions. But it's important to really put those in check and know why you're doing it. You're doing it because the satisfaction comes to you when you see this on the screen. You know that you're part of something that is moving people, making people feel something. Like I love sci-fi because I like seeing predictions of what the future might be. And to me, that says, well, we might be able to, if we get a warning, in a movie like Minority Report, where we get a warning about a surveillance society and what that might be like, and how our freedoms might be inhibited or curbed. That excites me that people watch that, have fun in the movie, be entertained, but think, that's not the world. I don't want the world to become like that.
No,
That's exciting.
As an aspiring concept artist, you being in the industry, what would you say would be our best bet to get into the industry, other than, you know, all networking, or it's who knows you? Like, what do you think would help us get in there?
Actually, can I answer that later? I'm going to go through 10 things that I think have helped me in the industry, and I think that would be, if it's not answered, then grab me a hand.
Talk about the deadline cycles for design as the stages go through on the projects you work on. How high is the stress balance for directors or really just getting on?
It's tough. I would say really high, really high stress. This project was done in almost everything you see, other than some of the images have been updated because there was a huge presentation. Everything was done on that. The model was accomplished in 3 days while working full-time job. And the rest of it all happened in a week while working full-time job. So,
Including the 3D printer?
yeah, because that was the practical model. That took 3 days. Sometimes you have to wait for things to dry, but I mean, that was finger to the bone. That was, this stuff needs to get turned around pretty quickly and fight for more time fight for better designs. Because I feel a lot of people, a lot of clients, like directors, a lot of directors, they just want to see something look really shiny, get it to me really fast. Get a better one, like Alex McDowell or Thinker, they're going to ask for something new or something more. You keep it open, things in the beginning. But I think we had a term at Art Center, it was polishing a turd. And I think that entertainment design, that there's a lot of that. And I know that, it's not always the artist's fault. I mean, there are other circumstances that will affect that, just like you mentioned, time, budget, miscommunications. It's tough. Humans, we don't always do it right, but I think it's cool to aspire for more.
Have you ever used or thought about using rapid prototyping or 3D printing as far as the design process itself instead of like a final piece, or more like printing out maybe different masking options or different things just to see it in 3D in your hand, using that, detail
Well, I would say yes, but not through a rapid printer, foam core. Absolutely. Yeah, and I don't know if some of you guys have seen, but the submarine I was working on, I mean, the modelers, they built them out in foam core first. And actually that was something, I don't think it's in there. But, excuse me, Doug Chiang really liked to work many different angles in a particular design. So the submarine would be tasked to 4 or 5 concept artists, guys like me, and then it would be tasked to 2 or 3 concept modelers, which not all departments have concept modelers. And then it would also be tasked to 2 practical modelers. And all of us would be working the same design problem, but informing. It would be spilling back and forth. Doug would be walking around and go, oh, I like this. And then he'd be, David, you got to check out what the modelers are doing. Can you employ that more in your paint? We would be informing each other. But ultimately, someone sort of, one design starts winning out. Someone starts art directing the entire thing a little more. And then ultimately, that's done. But it's a really fun and confusing way to work. But I think with your architectural background, I think of a guy like Frank Gehry, how all those things, all those little proxy models inform him in the beginning design stages. It's critical.
You mentioned you work on smart what do you think
Yeah, I'm not.
would you really say was visual? Are you able to say that the title of Marcy was off, so it's not weird writing?
Yeah, no, it doesn't sound very cool. I think it's a problem in who it's actually targeted to. Some of the humor is for an older audience, but I really can't talk too much about having not seen the final product. So, say.
Just to kind of tag team on that, but
Yeah.
bring back to design. When you're working on a film or a medium or something, and you're designing, you're bringing up the concept and designing stuff, how much of the semi-final product are you seeing? Like with Marcy's mom, like if you design a ship or something, later on when you need to design something else, are you seeing the final product of the ship? Are you seeing clips of the movie that are...
Okay, hold up. Say it again. So, I've designed something. You're asking if it goes all the way through the pipeline?
Yeah, like,
to the final product?
like have you seen parts of the movie or
Oh yeah, I mean, we had dailies.
yeah.
Yeah, I would see parts of it. I mean, we were aware something seemed a little off.
And then,
But I didn't.
is there, I guess what I'm asking also is just like the concept process, the design process, on like an animated film like that, is some of it staggered to the point where it'll be in the process of animating while you're designing other parts? I don't know if that calls.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Yeah, I guess my question
So you're asking, I've designed something, but it's being animated somewhere else. You're asking if it's being changed or if it's...
I just mean, I can't even think of what I was trying to get at. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a complicated process. There's no strict rules. Things can be redesigned at any moment. The final set can be built and directed, it's not right. You can go all the way back to concept art. So that's probably very, very, very rare. Yeah.
What's it feel like to see when your concepts come to life, actually be put into production and actually be a finished product? What's the feeling that goes through you as an artist?
I haven't really seen that. Next question. No. I think it's going to feel awesome. I can guess, and I haven't seen things in dailies, but I've seen things just get cut out of the movie too. So I haven't had that, what I want, and I want to see my vehicle fly down to the surface of Pandora. That's what I want. It's sort of,
What about you, the model you built? What was that like when you were actually able to touch it and grab it and be able to...
Yeah, that's something, thank you for asking that. I mean, first of all, we made it together. Man, I couldn't have done it in 3 days without your help. I would say I did about half of it, but that's huge, and I think that's something that, again, you up front here, you had a question, or is it just in had a question about, you had a question, I forget the question. I think there's, you were asking whether, if you're coming from more of an illustration design background, and you're wondering, if I just look at reference, and can I, cheat that I, have real world building experience and this, that, the other thing. I think that's another point. If you don't do that modeling, you're missing like the whole sense. I think, John and I, we started with clay, foam, and getting to, massage a speed form for a month, even in the first term, turning that into a fiberglass model. When you feel your design, you've sketched it, then you also get to run your hands along it. You're incorporating another sense, furthering the depth of understanding of this particular thing. Obviously, all the other advantages of being able to walk around a real-world project. I know that Volvo has a studio where you put on virtual goggles and you can walk around a virtual model of their cars. So they're trying to, avoid the step of actually building a clay car. But, there are instances in the automotive industry, like the Pontiac Aztec. That was the first car that didn't have a clay model constructed, and that project bombed. It may not be for that reason, but that's sort of what I would point to. Something was very different in the real world. It feels very different than it does on a computer monitor. So if you're not modeling, at least sometimes, you don't fully understand. You could get surprises.
Such as what?
Well, architecture, say we're in a room, we're designing this room, and you're just plotting it out the best you can with respect to the drawing. That's fine. But you're also making things based on 2D decisions. You're making compositions. So your product is 2D, as far as getting the approval from the director. Now the director comes in and goes, I like your room, and I want to see it from an opposing angle. Now all of a sudden you find out your room doesn't look so cool, so you start cheating it in 2D. But ultimately, when they go to build that set, things are going to blow up. They're going to go, why doesn't this match up? Now, if we had just even roughed out a rough model in SketchUp, we would know what's going on here. We would know what we have to work with. And we would have to make that look cool. It's much harder to make. Look at your iPhone. The one that came before, the little spin wheel. The design of that thing is intense. That's tough. If you can incorporate a little bit of that into the program of an architectural space, it's going to be huge. Okay, you guys want to take a break, and then maybe we'll come back and we'll talk about the same things. Are you guys having fun?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sweet.
Let's take maybe a 10-minute break.
Yeah, that sounds great.
probably finish it at 45 or so.
Okay, good.